Hey, wow. Guess what? We're back. We haven't done this in a while. Yeah, it's been, what has it been, 5 years?
It's been about 5 years. We keep saying 5 years, but actually we haven't counted. So
yeah.
Actually
might
be 10.
I run out of fingers on that hand.
And by now you've lost some of your fingers, I'm sure.
Teeth, not fingers. But to be fair, you know, it has been a while, and I think quite a lot has happened since we...
Who are you being fair to?
To us.
Oh, okay.
To us. I think quite a lot has happened since we last did any kind of a radio show together. If that's what we're going to call this, because this isn't... We're not on radio.
All right. Yeah. So let's... So there you go. Let's set the tone. Let's set the palette, if you will. So here we are. We did the show as Beaner and Weevil for, I don't know, what, 3 years?
We did a couple years on Pibco. We did some on our own. We made a little go out of it. Then life kind of got in the way.
Don't forget you carried on with your own show.
Yeah, I carried on.
Undercover Steve.
Yeah, I carried on podcasting for quite some time. But even that I haven't done. The way I look at it is I've been in King Dead since my band, since I joined at the summer of 2013. And by the time we did the record, I was still doing the radio show, which was early 2014. So I was pretty much done podcasting, I think, by the end of 2014. So for me, it's been at least 3 years since I've done anything inclined like this.
When did we start the Beaner and Weevil show, the Great Debate, the Great Music Debate?
Well, Pibco started in 2009, I think. Either 2009, it was 2009 or so. And I think it got on the ground 2010. We started around 2009 in that cusp. Just as we were starting, it was when that all kind of came to... This was in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, by the way, internet radio. But that was pretty much... It was funny because we had just started to do demos when it came to my attention that guy Rob was starting.
Exactly, yeah, because we did demo versions of the show. We did recorded versions of the show before the internet.
I was bussing back to New Jersey,
yes,
to Wes's house, who is obviously the other person involved here.
So he is Steve.
I am Steve, and I agree. And
thank you for agreeing with
you. Allegedly
are
Wes.
I'm Wes. So that we just figured we'll just review for ourselves. Actually, a reminder of it. It's been quite some time since we had an idea way back where we said, why don't we create a talk show about music?
Yeah.
Which was novel at the time, although now they have volume on Sirius.
People have stolen our idea.
People have stolen the idea.
We've come back to reclaim it.
It didn't help that when we did the idea, we did it in a small bubble.
Yes, we did it in a shoebox of a town called Stroudsburg.
Yes. Nonetheless, Sirius has the volume channel now, which is all talk about music, various forms, and they have a show called Debatable. I'm a caller on that show, and it does seem to take somehow, they read our minds and they did
they stole our ideas.
I'm sure they were listening and stole the idea.
So we figured we kind of, I guess, was a little bit of an impetus for us to maybe get back together, because as I was saying earlier, quite a lot has happened in those last few years.
Trump was elected, but we don't get political.
Oh, God,
we don't get political. So, but I'm just saying, a lot has happened.
The show will crash and burn.
I moved to Maryland.
Yeah, you moved to Maryland, below the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah. So here we are. So the idea never really died. I think you and I both felt...
It got back-burnered, and I mean, to be honest, I got burnt after a while, and I needed to walk away from it, and at that point, the bands were becoming more prominent. So I kind of switched gears, as I have done many times in my life.
You were a gear switcher.
But now,
about it.
You kind of say, hey, this is something we should do again. And I gotten to the point where I kind of occasionally missed having the opportunity to talk about some of these wonderful things that we share and experience.
Yeah, that is the crux of our show. It's a debate about music, and
I'm not even going to say that's how we dressed it the last time.
That's what the show was.
I'm not going to pigeonhole us into that, and I mean, arguments are just intrinsic to our nature over the last 30.
Let's argue about that.
38 years, I guess it's been. I've known you.
That's about the size of it.
I was 12. But we'll get to all that in a little while.
All right, I know. I see you got something cooking there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's coming out of your ears.
It's funny that, that we decided to do this at a time where, again, like I just said, really huge leaps and bounds in far of what has gone on since that time that we stopped doing the radio show. But most notably, it was kind of like, it's kind of Rip Van Winkle-ish in the sense that we kind of went to radio sleep. When we went to sleep, prog was still, hated and ignored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in that time, obviously Rush got in, and now Yes finally got in, and Genesis is in, if I'm correct. With the Peter Gabriel stuff.
Yeah.
And but there's starting to, there's been I look at it that so many prominent musicians have been influenced by the prog bands of the 70s that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame could no longer ignore the outcry from not just the fans, which has always been there, but you have some of the most prominent ambassadors of today musically saying, if it was not for these bands, we wouldn't have done what we did. You have to acknowledge that. And they finally have. And now they're starting to do it consistently. I mean, with Yes being inducted in.
Well, I don't think there's any way to not agree with that. How long could they go without putting a band like Rush in or a band like Yes in?
And Rush is the safest choice
at this
out
point.
of all those.
Do you think?
Yeah,
do you think I thought Yes would have been a safer pick. Actually, I was kind of surprised that Rush went before Yes.
I think Rush.
Don't you think Rush was surprised that Rush went before Yes?
Yeah, they were. But I mean, Rush became more accessible. I mean, granted, Yes had a lot of early, really big success with Roundabout and those kind of things, and then they kind of went off the radar for the most part until 90129 90129 came out. Yeah, so until then that's when you get into the MTV era and the video airplay that Owner of a Lonely Heart got is huge. But then again, at that time, before that, moving pictures, those live videos from Exit Stage Left were hugely prominent on MTV and such. But I mean, moving pictures put Rush into a whole different category of mass acceptance.
Yeah, well, and I don't know where exactly you're going on this, but I have a couple of directions that I feel compelled to talk in as you introduce this topic, and one of them is, it's how you just started, the way you just started the whole topic, and you said, well, prog rock just, wouldn't go away, so to speak.
Yeah.
And not only that, but when the Billy Corbins come out and all the people come out of the woodwork and go, I'm a Rush fan, Metallica's a Rush fan, everybody's a Rush fan, and a Yes fan. Corgan, sorry.
Yes.
No, I have my own version.
Confused me.
I have my own Billy. Never mind. So all these guys come out of the woodwork and are Rush fans, and of course, I mean, Rush hit that huge level, and then of course these guys were 14, and of course Rush was going to be a big influence to people. But the whole thing kind of bothers me because it's kind of like it's after they were when I met you and you were a Rush fan and you were 12 years old. They truly sucked. When I say that, I mean nobody was on the bandwagon.
Yeah, well,
I mean this was okay. It happened to be maybe just before moving pictures.
I was going to say, Permanent Waves was really. I mean, they were fairly cultishly successful at that point with 2112. I mean, to you and in our little tide pool, they
a lot
solved.
of people though. I think there were a lot of people like me who
tremendous.
Who would have been like, "What are you talking about, Rush?" I mean, they're weird, they're goofy,
I got a lot of flack for that.
You got a lot of flack for that, and so then you turned me into a Rush disciple because I wake up
because they're the greatest band to ever live.
Now I do feel though. I don't know. It's still hard for me to call anybody the simple greatest band, but I do feel like they're my favorite.
Yeah.
But my point is. At that time, it's still a discovery for an awful lot of people. And then, you have to wait for all these people to get on board, and then you have to wait for them to be in that dopey movie. What was that movie? I Love You, Man?
Yeah.
Is that's the jump the shark moment, right? Rush jumps the shark at that point, because now they're fodder in a movie.
I won't.
And they're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at that point.
I wouldn't say they jumped the shark.
I'm just saying the
goofy cornballs decided to put them in the movie and do it in a very corny and.
What I mean is their reputation jumped the shark. They're not in charge of their reputation in that way. Like they can't help it that they became cult heroes.
They became so much huger than they ever imagined.
They actually got a little bit bigger than life at that point. So
I think they've finally gotten what they're due.
I totally agree. It's just to me, to the fact that we're now we have them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame feels so. And I know this is the thing that everybody says about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that duh, what are you waiting for? But it's so after the fact. I mean, God.
But I mean,
it's crawling up to the stage. It just bothers me that it took this long, and it kind of bothers me that they stole that moment that could have been so much juicier.
Obviously, it should have been decades ago. Blah blah blah. I mean, when it comes down to it, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is really pretty irrelevant for the most part, but to that point, it's still an acknowledgement that should have happened a long time if they wanted to foster any kind of rock and roll credibility, which I think they have sold away a long time ago when they started putting things like Madonna, and all that in there. But that's a digression.
That's a topic, but maybe not for right now. I mean, it's a good topic.
I wish we had been doing the show when Rush got in, and we would give it the proper time and detail that it's warranted. But I feel now, since we've gotten over that hump, Yes being inducted has a much different meaning to me in some regards, not because of what it means to me personally, because it really means nothing to me personally. It never meant anything to any of us Rush fans personally that they weren't in. We took it as a bone of contention and gave us an excuse to flip them the bird. But other than that, it had no bearing on the fact that that they sold. You mean 24 gold records, 16 platinum, 8 double platinum, beyond and beyond and beyond.
You mean the fact that the honor, like in other words, finally that they get the nod from the Rock and Roll
It's a paper
Fame.
honor. It's really very thin.
And it's paper honor from people
but they should have boned up that paper honor so long ago.
Yeah.
Which makes the paper that much less valuable. So when it comes down
weakens
to it.
the paper.
But this one I just thought was special. I mean, in light of going back to what we opened with, so much has happened in the last 5 years, personally for me, and I'm sure for you as well.
I went off in somewhat of a global or esoteric type of direction, and I do kind of want to zone in on a little bit of what's happened, because it's really interesting, and I have a lot more of a. Just having viewed the induction, Rush, inducting, yes. I mean, that right there, just if I'd have said that to you 30 years ago, Rush inducts Yes, just the
there
chills.
Was no Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 30 years ago either.
You got that factor, but you know what I mean? Just the idea that one of our major heroes inducting the other major hero, and you could see in the ceremony.
And that was our major hero's major hero.
Exactly.
Which we'll get to that. I mean, I wanted to talk about that whole, because I got to watch. I didn't get to watch the HBO special because I don't have HBO, but I did watch people who put up camera video on YouTube of being at the actual induction of Yes, and the sweetness that bore out to me on that was, as I know that I did work for John Anderson for a little while over the last couple of years.
One of the little things that's happened.
One of the little things that's happened in the last couple of years, and. We didn't really talk about that stuff aside from, the fact that he would talk, during the show he would mention Chris, because Chris passed away, and he would kind of tribute them covering And You and I, which was, John Anderson with the Jean-Luc Ponty Band as the Anderson Ponty Band. So beyond that, we would occasionally talk about some Yes stuff here and there, but not really much. But I could just wrapping your head around that whole situation as to where he had health issues and had to get surgery and he had to recuperate. John? Yeah, John did. And that's why he left. He had to leave Yes, so many years ago, and they went back out on the road with another singer, and they were doing that. When he finally felt better, they didn't take him back, and him and Chris started that band. So I could only imagine.
Which he doesn't miss any opportunity to remind people that. One thing I noticed about him, because he doesn't reveal that much about him. He's very cosmic all the time.
Yeah.
But once in a while,
he said something personal. He would say, well, it's just funny because it ties into how Getty got to induct Yes in and talked about the impact that Chris Squire and Yes had on Rush, and it's like the impact. That's the one thing John does talk about is the impact that Chris had with those two meeting and starting the band was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And to not be a part of it as it was going on, he never said anything to me. We never discussed it, but I can't fathom how difficult that must be to accept and to work forward from.
Wait, take me back. You're talking about. You're saying John didn't mention anything to Chris about.
No. I'm saying to me, I've never talked to John about these things, but I just know a little bit about the situation.
I'm dying to dig in on this one because I've known that. Being your friend, I've been a little close to this, and known that you're out on tour with John and I've kind of refrained from asking you some of the very obvious questions, like, "Are you sitting down talking to John Anderson?" Because I have noticed I haven't pressed you.
He has to tell me what to do.
So I don't know if this is the time or the place, but I have to hear that. I've got to hear a day in the life. Especially for you.
All right.
Or is this not the time?
Well, yeah, we could get to that in a bit or something. But the broader point is that, as a personal, emotional thing, like I said, we never really discussed it. I always tried to wrap my head around what it must be like.
So that was from your perspective.
Yeah, this is all my perspective. How difficult it must be to have to accept that and move on. While they move on in their direction and now you're moving on in yours. And I mean, John's always been very busy. He does a lot of things. But I just know the only thing he did really talk about was that, when Chris got sick, I know they had gotten back in touch and they were very, very close as far as I know, or at least they had reestablished their relationship before it became too late, which is beautiful. And, that's wonderful. I know as a fan, like you want to see John with Yes, and I just hope when they perform that night that I hope it was as much of a happy occasion for him to be with his old band and to be acknowledged for the work they did together as a group. And they went and performed and had fun. I mean, I know Rick kind of made it very clear this is a one-off. Because those three are touring, John with Rick and Trevor.
Yeah, we help unravel that for a minute. So, because that's what I thought about while you were saying, I hope it was a good experience for him. And again, I've got to remind myself, and I've got to remind anybody who's listening, that this is your own personal perspective because you've been on tour with him for a bit here.
Yeah.
And you're getting, sort of it from the horse's mouth.
Well, I was just proud for him. I think we had discussed this earlier in the week where I said that, that night with the Hall of Fame ceremony was one of those nights where I had to work a show and then work the after show crew to work in the venue to get ready for the next show till 2 a.m. And then I had an 8:30 call time to unload a tractor trailer for a national act. And it was like, I was supposed to go to sleep at around 3.
It's show business, you're not allowed to sleep. There's no sleeping.
But I could not go to sleep without watching videos of that ceremony, the induction, the performance, which, we'll get to that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah,
but all I could think of was just emotionally watching him up there with his old band, with the guys that they changed music history, and they're finally being acknowledged for it by the industry, quote unquote. And I hope there was no kind of bitterness or any kind of friction or anything. I hope it was it would appear to me that they all enjoyed the moment together and took it for what it is, and I would hopefully think that gave him a little comfort,
like a closure.
I guess,
or just to have the experience be what it should be.
Yeah,
or you'd hope it'd be.
Yeah. I mean, look at Journey. Steve Perry didn't sing with them.
It's like
that's awkward. Or the whole Kiss fiasco about Ace and Pete, or
Steve Miller was fun.
Steve Miller. Steve Miller was funny. But I mean, do we even have to bring up John Fogerty and the mess that became CCR at that point?
But I guess this is unfortunately how it goes. I hear Ann and Nancy Wilson aren't really palsy-wowsy anymore, and they always were, right? But I heard
they're sisters. I mean, I understand when you're married to musicians and it splits, there'd be some animosity, but then again, look at the Robinson brothers.
Perfect example. Usually, this is how it is. I mean, when you see brothers like the Bee Gees spending, unless one of them dies, unfortunately. Yeah. Otherwise, they seem to be pretty tight. But
this is the wreckage that this industry leaves behind all too often. Is the toll it takes on the emotional relationships between some of these people.
So going back for a second to that night. So John finally gets that night, and the first thing I thought about when you were saying that is he's got this super bittersweet thing because it's not Chris, the guy.
Chris wasn't there to see it either. They finally get in. That's.
I can't imagine
that's a bittersweet.
It's a bittersweet component. Thing, So he's got that. Then he's got the division in the band to deal with, because right after or during or before, I don't know, I didn't get the story straight. Apparently, that's when all of a sudden I think it was John Anderson who said, who articulated, we're going on as Yes. Did you hear that?
What?
That John Anderson and...
the Wakeman and Raven, they
are going out as Yes.
Well, they go out as touring the music. It's Anderson, Wakeman, Raven.
But music of Yes.
Yes. I don't know if they're going to use the name specifically.
Well, and I'll fact check myself on this, but I believe John Anderson, either day of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, talked about going out as Yes.
I think that maybe he's talking about that night.
No. He was saying
Anderson, Wakeman, Raven's is out as Anderson, Wakeman, Raven. Yes is out with Steve Howe and Alan White.
But call themselves Yes.
Yeah, well, they are Yes. They have the rights to the name.
John has the rights to the name as well.
I don't know about
that. And this so this is the dilemma that I'm pointing to. That I'm gonna have to fact check it, but I believe there's now a little bit of a rift. In that John saying, we're going to go out as Yes because we have as much right as anybody to go out as Yes.
I'm not sure if they're going out more. I know they just wrapped up European stuff.
Well, of course, that pending them actually going out. But so anyway, so just thinking about what you said, it should be nothing but a beautiful moment, especially for a guy like John Anderson, who is always in that. Like I said, cosmic.
Yeah, very.
He radiates
very zen.
that. Yeah, all the time. I got that vibe. I caught your show at
the Howard Theater.
Yeah, the Howard Theater in DC. And I hadn't seen John Anderson since I saw Yes, and I'm not even sure enough to really think back of when I saw Yes, but it was the same guy.
Yeah.
Same, earthy kind of, we're all one. And it's believable from him. I just think, it's what he's about. So that night, which should be really nothing but magical, it's just interesting. He had the bittersweet part with, and I don't know what he thought. I don't know what he thought about Geddy filling in for. I know what you and I think about that. I mean, to me, anybody else do that? I can
only imagine what Geddy thought.
I'm sure he must have been.
I mean, you were watching that roundabout, like the first half of that. You could see that he's trying to kind of hang back and not be present because it's their song,
like not overwhelming.
And then like Trevor's coming up to him like, "Come on, get out of here, man."
You're right. And Steve Howe did that to him too.
Yeah, and he started to loosen up, but then he started to have fun. But it's just like, could you just imagine the inside internal combustion he must have been going through? Yeah. How often does, other than a baseball game, does Geddy get to become uber fanboy?
Exactly. Not only that, it's like when you're talking about uber fanboy. Like he might get like that. Like say it was Paul McCartney or something. He might get like that. But this is the guy.
Yeah.
He said, which I never heard him say. People ask me why I play a Rickenbacker. A reason why I play a Rickenbacker is because of Chris Squire, period. And he played it for years and years because he just wanted that tone. So anyway, thinking about John Anderson's experience, I hope it was like that too. And I get the feeling it was a magical experience for him.
I'm going to wistfully believe that they had a wonderful shared experience together, and I hope everything is awesome. And I mean, I know they're all going to do what they're going to do.
I can tell you've been hanging around with John. I'm not sure you've ever said something like that before.
I mean, as somebody that working for the guy for a little while, it's just, I was also very tired, so I got a little weepy watching that whole thing, and I just hope that it was everything good it should be for him and for them.
I think that's a weep-worthy moment. I watched it, and I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of reasons I could have been cynical about it. From the what took them so long to the wow, now they have to do it at this age, and then they wait till Chris isn't there. But then of course it brings the magical moment of getting to play with him. But after all said and done, I kind of reeled back, and I really thought John actually was losing himself in it. There were moments where he was really lost in it, like closing his eyes and sort of trying to soak in the moment. And I think it was a moment like that. I think Steve Howe really got into it. I think Rick Wakeman is, he's going to be. I was going to say
Steve's speech was forever and ever and ever. He's so
Steve's
serious.
Speech? Here's the other thing.
To counter Rick's. Have you if you really want to laugh, you should check out Rick's audiobook because he narrates it.
Well, here's the thing. I watched the. I'm checking our time. I've watched.
How long have we gone?
We're 26 minutes in.
All right, we're gonna switch topics in about 5 minutes.
Okay. I watched the whole, the rush ceremony. First of all, I watched. I recorded it on HBO, and I feel like they cut out a lot. Like it just seemed like Steve Howe's speech wasn't very long, so if it was long, I think I saw a cut-up version. I didn't see the big, long Rick Wakeman debut of his,
I'm sure they edited the hell out of his thing. You gotta watch, go on YouTube and look for the people that were there.
Yeah, I think I want to see.
Because Rick's speech was insane, I get the impression that that's the way he is.
I think he was just being himself, just like Alex.
He's a very, judging by, the only thing I really know of Rick Wakeman, aside from meeting him once and shaking his hand, and of course him letting me stand amidst all his keyboards and get my picture taken, which is so cool.
That was so cool. Did you get to wear the cape?
No, I'm not allowed to wear the cape. It's like the Sorcerer's Apprentice would happen. The theater would explode.
Yeah, nobody wants the cape.
But
nobody wants the cape.
But his audio book, he is a really funny, crazy, loose cannon of a guy at times.
Yeah, so is Alex Lifeson, but much more awkward.
Yes.
And Alex, by the way, look, I didn't want to take this direction, so I'm going to refrain from doing that. There's a lot I'd like to say about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony for this year. And a lot of it has to do with, and that moment and some of the other moments throughout the show, the journey, the Tupac stuff. There's just stuff that I would talk about, but I don't think that's for.
I'm not going to ruin this good moment.
Yes, this moment was. Look, here's the summary of this moment. You and I have been Rush and Yes fans since we were, early teens when we first met, and these are our heroes, and they're each other's heroes, and to have it all come down to. John Anderson, Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman. It was Bruford
and Alan White were there.
And Alan White.
Bruford's the only one that didn't make a speech?
Well, at least somebody decided to take a pass. No. And getting on stage with them and watching him he looked like he was 14.
Didn't they all jam at the end, too?
And they did all jam
Alex
at the
was
end,
out,
too.
I think.
Alex was out, too. But that moment when they played Roundabout. First of all, actually, I think they played it well. So I heard some people saying it sounded horrible. When I heard it, it didn't sound horrible to me. Well, I mean, yeah, who cares? But I didn't think it sounded horrible.
Geddy Lee was there.
And didn't they... Oh, I'm forgetting. Didn't they do another song, or they didn't do another song?
They did Owner of a Lonely Heart. And apparently Steve Howe played bass.
Steve Howe played bass, which...
But, dude, let's keep things in perspective. Yes, with Geddy Lee on bass playing terrible... I would wish to aspire to come close to playing that bad someday.
Exactly, and quite frankly, Steve Howe was, as usual, Steve Howe.
Let the cynics be damned.
he was amazing, he always is.
There was a harmonic convergence that night, and John was at the middle of it, and for that, I am very happy. I'm very proud of him. So, congratulations, boss.
And that's a nice perspective to be able to say it from. So to your point, an awful lot's happened.
An awful lot's happened. But we're not even going to get into any of that.
We're not going to get into that.
Our other topic, because we had a good conversation the other night about what we were going to do here. And we started to discuss the name and things like that. Uh-huh. And I had a couple ideas on that. I had a couple ideas on that, much to your chagrin, I'm sure. But the one thing I was thinking of is it kind of ties into the My Show, which we could kind of call it Our Show.
Right.
Because it is our show. And I still, I mean, to me, that whole franchise of the whole My Show thing, I mean, inside Stroudsburg, it's a hit. It hasn't really branched too far outside of that yet. But it is an established brand where my little shoebox, Tide Pool is. But the other thing is I come back to a theme on this and what we should base the name on, maybe somehow. Is really what the I guess what the whole philosophy of this show is, and it's almost mafioso. It's
well, hold on. Where is the show going?
This thing we have.
This thing of ours?
That's what we're talking about. This thing we have.
This thing of us.
Which is music. And if you notice, people that are into music, musicians, or people that really appreciate music on a high level, it's like started early, and it's something that is never, more often than not, doesn't wane. It gets stronger as you get older and as you network and establish and experience and learn. But it's always been about everything our lives have pretty much centered around has always been this thing we have. And when we see other musicians, you can always talk with them on some level. And there's always some sort of common topics and experiences that can be mutually shared, or you learn from each other. You're constantly learning from people, or, hey, what is he doing with that pedal? What is that? Like, as soon as you walk into somewhere, if somebody's playing any kind of an instrument, your wife could be talking to you, but you're, wow, I never thought to put that in there. Wow, I never tried that, and everything's always about this thing we have.
This thing we have. We've switched it to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to use La Cosa Nostra because that has some bad.
Lucky Louie, come looking for us.
To be fair, it got a bad rap, that expression. Some bad people took it and used it.
So what is it? It's not this thing about
It's kind of like the Hitler mustache. It's like a bad man took that stupid little mustache. Nobody minded when Charlie Chaplin had it.
Michael Jordan tried it for a while. Yeah. He actually did. It was a week.
You can't do it.
Didn't work
because of that. Well, that's what happened to La Cosa Nostra. But when you think about it, music is this thing we have.
That's all right. I'm with you.
When me and you first met, what was the first thing I said to you? What was our first conversation that I can recall?
I think you asked me who I was into, or
you were walking up the court in the apartment complex we grew up in, and you were carrying a guitar and records. The first thing I said, what records you got? Oh, you got Aerosmith Bootleg. Can you record that for me? I'm going to put down a tape. You know what? I'm going to put a couple of Queen songs on that just to show you. You don't know Queen that well? But that was our connection.
You notice I didn't have a baseball glove. And I do love sports.
But football was your prime sport.
But I wasn't carrying a football.
No, but you were carrying a guitar. And this is just this was just around the time that I had discovered Rush independently of knowing you, and Black Sabbath, and was starting. I always attribute that to my musical puberty, where that was the first time I found bands that I was interested in. Aside from, you know, this is what my mother listens to, this is what my dad listens to. I love these things. I still listen to this day, but that was the first, like, you know, pre-adolescent, you know, understanding or yearning for music, but that was the first part of our relationship. And if you remember correctly, back in those days, I mean, those were the battle lines. That's how kids identified. That's how cliques kind of rolled, was the music scene, at least in our little town. Yep. And many of our little towns around us.
Our little town, I think that whole notion of what did you listen to?
Tribal.
Not only what did you listen to, but I remembered, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was talking about it, saying there was a time where your music collection or your record collection, whatever form it took, that was who you were, right? I mean, because
who I was.
I mean, it's who we all were. Like, so if you would meet somebody, if you were dating a girl and you went,
there was no dating girls with my record collection, if you remember correctly.
That's right. You have to really carefully select your records.
Rush, yes, Rush, yes.
But if you do, like, you know, whatever you do when you discover someone, one of the things you would discover is the music collection and question, like, you know, like, oh, you know, I see.
When you think about it, it really kind of, in a way, tells you where the person's head is at, what they're listening to, what they like, what they're thinking.
It's a prelude to who they are. Especially, like, for me, in my record collection, I had the things you would predict. Like, at that time, I had a bunch of Aerosmith, and I had some Cars, and you guys, Cheap Trick, and Cars,
Bowie, all that stuff, you know, Deep Purple. I mean, you borrowing Bill Connolly's and Bill Hawk, Awesome Leather Goods.
I got,
There's a plug.
Plug for Bill Hawk.
But because of the stuff that people like Bill and your cousin Bob and Pam and everybody taught us, like, you brought that stuff to me. I brought you, you know, Rush, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, you know, Metallica, things like that.
Things, yeah.
But you brought me all that, you know, Faces, you know, like Beatles, all that stuff.
I thought your parents, I thought, brought those
Beatles a little bit and somewhat, but no, my musical education really, I think, I jumped to gifted and talented when I started hanging out with your family. I went from regular general high school courses that won't get me to college, and I started hanging out with your family, and then I jumped into gifted and talented, not being gifted and talented at the time.
Actually, you were. You were gifted and talented around drums. You just had to do it on popcorn cans.
Yeah.
But you were good on those popcorn cans.
The seed was there. It wasn't properly nurtured, but we're working on that still.
Yeah,
at
well,
50.
now this is another thing. Yeah, well, thank God you can still do something when you're 50.
Yes.
But boy, that just opens up a lot of Pandora's boxes. But that one concept you brought to life. First of all, let me go back to what you said about the name. I thought that's an interesting concept. I would explore that one further. This not this thing of ours, but this thing we have. This thing we have. I see you get a certain kung fu grip you're doing when you say that. It's thing of ours.
I have to admit, it's the they pull me back in. It's the horrible movie Godfather 3 line.
I see a little Al Pacino happening right at that moment.
That movie was so bad.
So this thing we have, and you're right, there is a thing we have, and I think I thought of the word brotherhood as you were saying that. There's a certain brotherhood.
There's a fraternity to
because haven't you had that moment where you went and saw a band? Tell me, this is maybe a kind of like, maybe comfortable to admit a person has this moment or not. But have you ever gone to a club or you're in a bar and there's a band there? So you walk up and there's a part of you that says, I'm not anybody walking up. I'm part of the brotherhood.
Yeah.
And then you want to sort of like you want to connect with them as a musician. Sure. You want to walk up and say, this is pretty cool. I noticed your hi-hats are way, far apart, and I keep mine close.
You talk shop.
You talk shop because you want to right away sort of level the playing field because
I'm still that 15-year-old that was trying to talk to, your cousin Joe, who is, stratospheres above us in skill and experience, but you want to be in the conversation.
Remember, I grew up
we want to be in
people,
this thing we have.
But it does become this thing that you have and we have.
It's still going.
And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't go away because... And it's interesting. I just read an article, I think it was this morning, that talked about, it was making a larger point, saying that, you're not all these things that you do. So if you are a musician, that's not all of you. There's a whole you that you bring to the table, and part of that is a musician, and part of it is a writer or a ditch digger or whatever it is. But we do so identify with music. Is such a huge thing.
I'd say
it's hard to let it not be a part of everything.
Part of what makes me me is music. Always has been. I mean, I have a lot of other interests and pursuits. I mean, I'm still collecting tarantulas. Started that when I was 18.
And that's not even something that happened.
And that's the other thing that I know ridiculous amount of stuff about, so that's a big part of me as well.
Much like our friend Joe. New Jersey Batman, Joe D'Angeli, who certainly went way further in that direction than I saw coming.
Yeah, well, that's my job.
Yes, I'm with you on the thought. I like the idea. this thing that we have.
We're gonna go back to the development office and workshop and continue working on this name
thing. Safety glasses and stuff.
I think best case scenario, you might hear from us once a month. Yeah. At this point, being that I live in France and we are now where are we in Germany?
Yeah, Germany.
Germany, Maryland. Well, it's Germantown, which is
Germantown. We're not far.
That's the land of Clutch.
We're in Rockville, Maryland. So, all right. So you made another important little piece of information there.
Important.
Everything I say is important.
You know that already.
Doing this once a month, that sounds good to me. I don't know what our frequency will end up being like, but welcome back to the show, whatever our show is.
Okay.
I'm happy we're back into the show because what's happened with me during this time, I was in a Northern Virginia cover band for a year. I didn't touch my guitar or bass for about 3 years.
I could tell by the strings on your Strat. Or, no, what is that, Telly?
Telly. I had a big vacant time. There always reminds me of John Lennon said before he did, what was the huge record, this last record? Anybody?
Lennon?
Yeah, the giant record.
Imagine.
No, the last record.
Oh, the one with the two
Fantasy,
of them.
Double Fantasy.
Yeah.
So before he does Double Fantasy, he didn't touch a guitar for 5 years. Nothing. And I felt like I went through a period like that before I moved down here. It was a good 3 to 4 year period. I didn't pick up anything. We didn't do the show. I didn't pick up anything. I was working very hard at this new job. And I've gotten back to playing and a little bit of writing. And here we are. Back in the show. You just smacked your mic.
I sure did.
That's what that sound was.
Take that, Mike. Don't ever look at me like that again.
I know what you're doing over there, but I see that you're getting ready to do something.
I'm letting you finish your point.
Okay. All right. So anyway, my point is...
You've moved several times.
I've been...
this time?
Just one time. Oh, well, you're right. We moved down here from my job in Maryland from New Jersey, and we moved from an apartment into a house in Rockville. So that's where we are now. But my point is, a lot's happened, over 5 years. A lot hasn't happened over 5 years. But it's good to be back on the show.
No, I miss
the show is.
I miss talking about this thing we have.
This thing we have. Could we start the show like that?
Yeah.
This thing we
have.
This thing you rang.
Case in point, you've known me almost 40 years.
Yes.
How awful was it watching me play your guitars all those times?
It's painful just to hear that I've known anybody 40 years. But
and I've been trying to learn how to play guitar because I am technically a guitar tech.
Are you going to demonstrate your power?
I'm going to poorly demonstrate.
You can at least tune it. I think you did tune it.
No, you tuned this one. I tuned the other one. But I need a tuner for that. But it's just funny to think that I'm at 50. I'm trying to learn how to play guitar. This is another thing that happened with you in the last 5 years. You've picked up the instrument with the strings on it. Awful instrument to learn at this age. But I wound up inadvertently becoming a guitar tech.
Well, we didn't talk about what we do. Yeah, I mean, you started your with Anderson and
Anderson Pawnee Band.
Yeah, you were a guitar tech, and now you're a tech of all things. No?
I have
tech of all trades.
7 guitars a night, repeatedly, not knowing how to play any of them.
Watched you do it. It's fascinating.
You did get to watch that. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about coming up as we do more and more shows. There's a lot going on musically in the world today. And I mean, I'm even producing my own music. You are on the verge.
About that.
We don't need to today. We can come back because I'm recording. I'm laying down drum tracks. Not this Tuesday, the next Tuesday. So while I'm away, the rest of my band elves will hopefully build the rest of those songs, and then I'll have them to bring in, and we can discuss the fact that I'm playing something that's not gloomy, like total all bases.
That'll be interesting.
If anybody knows anything about my band King Dead, it's 2 bass players and me playing drums with all kinds of bass synth. So needless to say, there's a little bit of low end. Yeah. Oh well, we do have 2 songs with vocals. One's a whistle solo.
Okay.
And then the other one's just a chant on...
I'm not sure a whistle solo counts, but...
It's made with the mouth. It's a vocal.
It's made with the mouth. As is harmonica. Also not vocals.
But, yeah, so we're going to have a lot to get to. You are building your studio here in your new location, and I'm sure it will be in short order that you'll be starting to make your own music that I can lay drums down to up at our studio in Strasbourg.
There are lots of things going on
at this time. We could do so much.
Where are we on time? What are we at? We are at 5:15, so we're 45.
We're 45? Okay, well, we're probably going to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we should wrap this one.
Yeah.
And it's good to be back.
But
it's good to be back doing whatever this thing of ours is.
You have a nice home.
What is this thing of ours? Oh, thank you. What is this thing of ours called? This thing we have.
I don't know what we're going to call this thing we have.
It might be this thing we have. I like it because...
We could call it hepatitis.
Yeah. I don't like that.
No, I don't.
You know how much I like to be philosophical. So, I like to be philosophical. So,
yes.
I do like the philosophical nature of this thing we have. It branches out to a lot of thinking. I like this. I've lost you. I can tell.
Bend the note.
This reminds me of when you'd be like 15 years old talking on the phone.
Yeah.
And if I got a guitar in my hand talking on the phone, it was useless.
Yeah.
I would not hear a word. And what? Huh? Didn't you call me because I'm like the hot girl in school and you wanted to talk to me? Yeah, but I picked up my guitar.
But I'm trying to hold this. I'm trying to phrase this chord. Hold on a minute.
I'm trying to impress you. Hold on a minute. All right. So... That's a wrap on demo back return show 1.
We're going to eventually set up stuff for people to email us things to tell us we're wrong on and all that.
Yeah,
and
I like
to
that.
yell at us and tell us that we don't know what we're talking about and that we're geeks.
Yeah, I want to interact with
the internet is full of so much positivity.
Yes. Well, that's a wrap, kids. Thanks for joining us. I'm Wes. He is Steve.
Yes. UC Steve in the house.
UC Steve. You're not UC Steve when you're here. Well, maybe you are.
We're in Maryland.
Right, we'll figure that out.
Yes. Everybody, have a lovely Monday at work. Whenever that may be. Oh, yeah, Mother's Day is coming. Happy Mom's Day to everyone.
Mom's Day, and we'll see you, kids.
Happy Mother's Day, Mother. Oh, my mic went out, I guess.
No, it didn't.
I know. I was being funny.
You were being ironical.
I was being clever.
Gotcha.
You should know my cleverness.
We'll see you next time.
Oh, dear.